Hello and welcome to the Slapshot Syndicate podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more content, and whilst you're at it, go and follow our social media pages. They're on screen now. Now, on to the episode.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Slapshot Syndicate. So lads, end of the regular season, bit of a crazy weekend, all up in the air, plenty of goals, plenty of activity with the fists. What did you make of the weekend overall?
Yeah, very interesting, made for good entertainment, didn't it? But obviously still got loads to play for, so excited about what's to come.
I think if you'd have slap bang this weekend in the middle of the season, it'd been probably one of the best, wouldn't it? But I think coming to the end of the season where there's not much to play for, it definitely showed, and it was good to see loads of people getting different opportunities and stuff. And I think for a paying customer, it made for a great weekend, didn't it? Plenty of goals, and like you say, so
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. With that then, touching base, let's go into Seahawks reaction.
Seahawks! Seahawks!
So fellas, as we touched on, obviously a bit of a crazy weekend this weekend. Bit of a weird one for the Seahawks, probably one that we'd rather take back, I think, looking back at it, especially after Saturday, you know, with the thought of playoffs coming up.
Yeah, one to forget really for us, that, innit? Quite a lot of antics. I think this has made its way around the league and taken the shine off Leeds nights a little bit, but yeah, what can you say? We didn't really need to engage with it, not when we've got playoffs in sight.
Yeah.
But then again, it's hard to know, innit, when you're on the ice in the moment, and obviously with what happened to Hewitt and Sobchak, it would be difficult to not react to that. So what do you take on it?
To be fair, I just want to stop you because I don't want that to be the basis of what we're doing and what we're talking about here. We will come on to that and try and explain what happened and put it out there to people. But first of all, let's talk about the result. So Seahawks being beaten away at the Pitbulls 6-3.
don't think this was one that any of us predicted, was it? This was one that we sort of looked at to build momentum.
Yeah.
I won't say probably, we definitely overlooked Pitbulls and thought, you know, this will be an easy game. We rested Emmy wasn't available, was he?
Yeah.
But we rested a couple of players. I think Johnny wasn't there, Deckman wasn't there,
Chilcott wasn't there
Chilcott
either.
wasn't there. So, you know, there was a couple of lads that weren't there. And, you know, I think we sort of walked into it thinking, you know, get a few goals early on. And
but I don't think that's being too disrespectful though. I think
based
we've
on
been
league
in good
position.
form. You look at the league table, I think you'd expect maybe Matty would have been thinking we can go and try a few different things.
Well,
give
yeah,
something
it was an off
different
game for us. That's why you feel like it's so stupid for what happened.
But then I don't want that to then come across as like, because we've got beat, it's a nothing game and seem a bit sour, because that's not what's happening.
That's why you rest your players.
We've got to give credit to the Pitbulls, is what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they've obviously had some sort of game plan there. You know, we look at the form table there. So in the previous 5, they'd only won once. You know, for them, it was their last game at home of the season. Go out with a bang, give the fans something, which they've done, which we'll come on to. But yeah, I think that's a massive result for them, and obviously winning your last home game of the season is obviously a great feeling for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously going to be difficult for them knowing that they haven't done very well this season. So that was going to be their last game, and they was going to put everything out there, wouldn't they? Give the fans a show so they come back next season. So they've put in a good performance there, but
obviously they went 2-0 up on the night.
Yeah.
Seahawks came back, pulled it to 2-2, then went 3-2 up, which I remember like talking to you guys on the Sunday, like I'd seen it go to 3-2 and I thought, right,
here we go.
business resumed, let's
just
get this game put to bed. And yeah, it didn't really happen, did it? I remember looking, because I was travelling back from Liverpool at the time, and I just got home, and then not long after you said, have you seen what's happened?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I think it was 5-3 at that point. I was just like, what's going on here? After seeing 3-2, and
straight away it was all over social media. I think people, Hockey Fights UK had it on almost instantaneously as it was happening. So, do we want to go into a bit of detail about what actually happened then?
Yeah. So just before that, I obviously want to mention for the Hull Seahawks, Bobby Chamberlain scored twice on the night, which is obviously
Hewitt,
a massive one. Yeah, Hewitt 3 assists, which, you know, Huey is a big character for us, and we've said this, that experience is class.
I know where he was going there with Chamber, and you had a stat before we started off, which was all really impressed with, weren't we, with Bobby?
Yeah, so obviously this weekend he's managed to get his 50th goal which for me is absolutely top draw and one what we've
for a Brit
liked
forward. There's not you can't ask for more.
No, absolutely.
I think did he end the season with 99 points?
I think so. It was close to 100.
I think he's on like 97.
Is it something around there? But again, from a Brit, you can't ask for much more, can you?
No, absolutely not.
Amazing.
You know, I think he's been class all season for us. You know, just he's had those moments. He was one of the characters involved in the big kick up, and unfortunately, you almost just want him dragged out the way. I think we said we was glad Dek Barmer wasn't there on the night in some respects, because he would have been another one that would have just gone piling in there and got himself in trouble. So we'll get into what actually happened then. So one of you lads want to take it and explain what had happened?
Yeah, so Seahawks get onto the attack, puck goes through to Hewitt, and someone just absolutely levers him centre ice. Looks like it was head and his leg, so probably knee as well at some point, but he's gone down on the ice straight away. The play continues, goes through Sobchak one-on-one, and then Sobchak gets it in the face with the stick, goes down, and then before you know it, that's it, all hell breaks loose. Actually, I think the first part of it was justified, didn't it? So Bobby skated off, went in, and started throwing a few punches and stuff to try and get a fight going to protect his import, and obviously Hewitt. Yeah. All fine. And then it goes back, sort of calms down again, and there's a lot of chirping and stuff.
I think it's just worth noting that the two, so the Hewitt hit and the high sticks on Sobchak, there wasn't a call made on the night at all.
No.
Which probably has fueled the players being a bit like, there's no justice here. We'll kind of take
it into our own hands, and we'll enforce it ourselves. And that's exactly what happened, to be honest with you. There should have been a call on the ice, but after that, Bobby then starts going over to the Bristol bench and offering him out. And their commentator, I don't know if you've heard this on the footage, was saying, if someone answered the bell, if he's coming up to the bench and offering players out, someone needs to get on the ice and answer the bell.
And I think he made the comment there. He was saying he is a big fan of Bobby, but in your home ice, you need to have that person who's going to have the stones to sort of. If you're going to start it up, then someone needs to answer it and be accountable for it. And to be honest, nobody did they really? It was almost Seahawks that had to start it for the Bristol players to then react. Following that, Lee Hayward did exactly that, didn't he?
Well, the thing is, Bobby shouted at the bench, I think, offering out from what I could gather from the video. Then he threw some of his gear into the bench.
A helmet or something went in
then a stick from the bench came out at Bobby. Something else came out, and they didn't answer the bell. So it was like, okay, well, what's happening here? Someone's getting sent off. All while that's happening, Hayward spots their netty stamping on the equipment, because obviously it all just kicked off behind the goal. Stamping on the Seahawks equipment, Hayward goes over to the keeper, he gets levered, then it all just erupts again, and before you know it, you've got, I think, was it 2 or 3 fights going on the ice?
Chamber went back over, didn't he? And there was Jordan Fisher, Chamber, and Lee Hayward. There was all
Hodge was giving it.
Hodge was there, I think, but then I think he tried getting involved at one point. I think his gloves came off, but the other kid didn't react.
He'd soon dragged him back down. I saw the video, and he's giving a few while he's on the deck.
I'll be honest though, the tactics from Bristol there, they obviously was trying to do that, but that's, to be honest, that's something I don't really want to see in hockey. There was two blatant calls there that should have been made, and the refs should have actually done something about it. But I don't think at that point of the season it's just going out to hurt people, as far as I could see. So if you're going to do that, then stuff's going to happen. The refs need to get that under control though, because if they don't, that's exactly what happens. So obviously it's gone to review for DOPS.
I was going to say, we'd heard that the full game is potentially being looked at as well.
The most interesting thing to me is, in the situation that they were at, obviously the match got abandoned, didn't it, 5 minutes before
4 minutes. 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes. So at that point they were 6-3 up. So I don't see why that challenge in the centre has to go in. No. I don't see why that stick has to go in to Sobchak. It sounds really bad, but there's a dark arts in hockey, and if Bristol were in our group and they almost have someone saying if you can take one of their players out or do something like that, then sounds horrible, but it obviously has happened before.
No,
but Bristol Bristol had nothing to do that for, did they?
No, they didn't.
And we could have followed up with that same momentum the next night against Leeds, couldn't we? Really?
Yeah.
If we could
Yeah.
took one of their players out, thinking, "Oh, we've got these in the group."
Yeah.
Well, that's why I mean you don't need to see that.
No.
There's no reason for that. I mean, Bristol players will argue that the hit on Hewitt might have been like
Some were saying Hewitt was a bit on the
because he was
stretch and
sort of
his head was down a
going
little
and-
bit. And
But at the end of the day, like to me, looking at the footage online, which is there for everyone to see now, it's quite clear that that should have been called. And if that wasn't called, then the high stick definitely needs to be
It
called.
almost reminds me of that Buns hit the other week where Kirky was going over for it, and was it Kirky?
No, it was Cooper, wasn't it?
Where Bunner hit him in the face
Yeah,
and smashed him in
I
the
think it
face.
was
Was it
Cooper,
Cooper or someone like that? I can't remember who it was now, but Buns got how many games for that? Like 4 or 6 games, and it was worse than that one.
And
It
David,
was an
even the
alright
hit
one.
that David Phillips did on the beginning of the season against Kieran Brown, and that got called up. And perhaps it should have been, but how none of these calls was made on the ice is just, to be honest, it's appalling refereeing. And I think that's what they need to look
in
at.
his interview, he said that he's hoping for a good result for the Seahawks. He said he don't feel like the Dops usually give Seahawks a good review because of the nature of the team and things like that. But he said that he fully backs Seahawks, and he said that
His players
because what happened. Obviously, Bobby had the initial fight, which was only a 5-minute, but then went and had another fight, so that's an extra 20 minutes, and I think he ended up getting another 20, didn't he? So, there was all these which is, I think his head's gone at that moment, just because the lack of control, and there's a question mark there as to.
In terms of the Seahawks' performance on that, I can sort of accept Bobby fighting in that, that close to the end of the game and having to miss the game on Sunday. It was all the afters. That didn't need to happen for me, and that could prove costly to us.
We'll wrap up there with the Saturday, because I think we could talk about it forever.
Yeah, I agree.
We haven't got all night, have we?
But behind us and
it was a poor one. Bristol won, and we've been suckered into something, and it's obviously affected us going into Sunday. So Sunday, home game against the Leeds Knights. Personally, I didn't expect anything from this. Leeds obviously coming off the big cup league win. Absolutely flying, quality sides. Seahawks going in, following on from Saturday. We had Lee Haywood missing, Jordan Fisher, Bobby Chamberlain, and was there a fourth one missing? Potentially. We had 3 or 4 players missing through the incidents of the Saturday night. So it was a few short going into it, but 4-3 win.
Yeah, and what a game as well, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be that, quite that intense, to be honest, for the last game of the season.
It was a tight game, and obviously it was a shootout win for the Hull Seahawks in the end, so it went the full distance.
Yeah.
But I think we was good for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think they was both trying to test each other out, see what they're up against coming into playoffs. So, I mean, there's one thing we're going to have to talk about on this podcast, and it was one of the shootout goals. Which
absolute joke.
Do we mention it now, or do we come on to that?
We'll come into it, because, like you say, it was, for me, probably the defining moment in the shootout. And
I'd like to focus, like during the game, like you say. I think in terms of Leeds, although it is a great win, I don't want to put a dampener on it. You could see that they were sort of eyeing us up for.
I did want to bring this in because I know you did mention it during the night how the top line for Leeds didn't play full minutes.
There was a lot of shifts for the third line with Endicott and the other guys, and fair play, and they did really well. And I'm not saying that Seahawks weren't worthy winners and it wasn't a hard win, because you can play the first, second, or third line for Leeds and they're all brilliant.
Yeah.
But I think for us personally, there was one standout player, and he got man of the match, didn't he? How good was Lee Bonner all night?
Yeah, and I'd actually, because you were stood next to me, and I said Lee Bonner was one of my candidates for Player of the Season for Seahawks this year.
He was just the epitome of what Matty wants. He was hard, he was fast, he was technical.
Yeah.
He just did everything, and if we had 3 lines of Lee Bonner, then you'd piss it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, you need them sort of players to do the gritty work, don't you? In the middle, and Bonner does that game in, game out.
It's hard work that looks good, good attacking player, but like that sort of trickery and skill, the entertainment he brings as well, is the complete package.
Just
in it,
tenacious,
People have Bones down as just this hard-hitting guy who, like scrappy, but technically he's really good.
Yeah.
You don't get as much credit as he deserves by far, and Saturday showed that, I think, for me.
I think there was a bit of respect between both teams as well, which was quite nice to see. Obviously, Seahawks give Leeds the guard of honour when they came out onto the ice.
I won't comment about that.
You weren't too happy about that?
No, I'm not about that, to be fair, to be honest. I know it should be like all respect and stuff, but they're another Yorkshire team. We don't do that sort of thing. We don't like them. Simple as that.
You're a sore loser though, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I don't care. Maybe if more players were sore losers, we might win some of the...
Yeah, I can't say looking at the Seahawks players they was particularly thrilled about the idea though.
There was some of them who just didn't even look at
I don't
them like
think any
they
old
seemed
spec or Nick Barber's stick moved at all.
No, but
it was just
that's
on the
what I
ice
like.
like this. It was just like...
For me, that's like, if a player's like a bit pissed off about that, that's winning mentality. And man, like, oh, Leeds, well done. No, they are somebody who is stopping us winning. So they've got to go.
Fair.
So simple, and that's just my mindset.
And that's not
on it,
taking credit away from what they've actually done this season.
I'll gladly say I've said for many weeks now they're a class act,
Every
great team, whatever. I have no issues in saying that. But at the end of the day, I want my team to win.
As a Seahawks fan,
So unfortunately, they're in our way. So they've got to go.
I agree.
So overall good game. I think I mentioned to you during the night every period was 1-1.
Yeah, it was.
So it was just tied all through the game. So a good sort of low scoring game. Good tight defences. Looked good for both teams. Like you say, maybe not at 100%. Maybe a little feelers going into playoffs. Both teams didn't want to lose players. We'd already obviously lost enough.
Overtime was a bit nail biting, which adds to the entertainment value of it all as well.
I think to be fair, like this overtime was better than some of our previous ones.
I agree.
I can't remember what it was last time where we saw very little of the puck, and I was just oh god, and it might, in the long scheme of things, come the playoffs, overtime might become a big thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I know we've been talking about obviously the playoffs now. It might go, and overtime has been mentioned and considered. So we did have to improve our overtime game a little bit. And we'll come into the shootout. So our fair shooter, Emil Svek. I mean, I remember seeing the puck go in the back of the net, and then I was on the floor.
You were on the floor.
What can you
physically,
say?
and that's not metaphorical, by the way. He literally was on the floor. There was a yelping air block, and
I was done. The audacity.
It was phenomenal, wasn't it? Absolutely phenomenal.
So obviously, you go against Leeds, you think, right, just do the right things, get your penalty shot, go up, and just get it in the back of the net. Up steps Emil Svek, casually comes up. And then he
comes out wide, doesn't he? And then comes across.
And then comes across, and then just you think, oh, he's gone too far. And all of a sudden, his hands come between his legs, and he flicks it over the shoulder of Harrison Walker, and it goes top pocket. And you just like, ugh, that is disgusting. So to have the audacity to try that on the first pen shot of the night was unbelievable.
Stones to do that.
Absolute class. But he's been class all season, hasn't he?
You know, someone else who I'd want to mention on penalty shots, not just in this game, but throughout the season. Johnny Corneal, he is absolutely phenomenal at penalties.
When I went to Swindon earlier in the season with 100 penalty shots, I think him and Bricknell were just going one-on-one, and he was brilliant. He's like, you know what, we've got to give Johnny a lot of credit now that we're actually at the end of the regular season, because I know there was a lot of question marks, myself included. I'll be the first one to admit when we got rid of Caden Hannah, so I really like the look of Caden Hannah, but I'll eat my words, because Johnny's done us a really good job, hasn't he?
Like you say, like I was just saying there, it's alright doing like the Emil Svek and doing something real saucy, but like you say, when you've got a guy who will repeatedly step up in Johnny Corneal, and it doesn't have to be the fancy stuff, it's just bang, back of the net, get it in. That's class, and that's what you want really. You shouldn't have to do something crazy to score in a shootout, you just want a guy who just back of the net. Yeah,
absolutely, but all in all, absolutely brilliant night for us, really, just showing that we can still beat Leeds. Coming into playoffs gives us a bit of confidence. I'm sure they'll want to get that one back on us.
Huge uplift for the squad. Gotta
be. Massively happy with what happened on the Sunday. Like you say, Saturday, obviously it'll be reviewed and whatever happens will happen, but that one's a bit of a sour taste, really. I'd have taken us getting beaten still, but without the antics. At least we'd have had full complement going into the playoffs.
What are your thoughts in terms of, I know we're speaking hypothetically here, but Bobby, what do you reckon?
I think that's his season probably.
Yeah, I think like you say, the first initial fight I think's fair game, but when you start going in for 2-3 afterwards, and it becomes an issue. Once it starts, it's seen as a weapon in it. I know it's just like they're throwing a glove or whatever. It's a weapon at the end of the day.
Do you think with like you said about the league trying to sort of slow that down, they could use him as like make an example of him and sort of be like, give him a 10 game rather than
I think
5 or 6 and potentially being there in commentary playoffs?
I actually think on that front, and the reason why the game will be getting reviewed is because they need to look at the reasons why, not just how it happened.
Like the referee and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and perhaps that could have been nipped in the bud.
I know it's been mentioned a couple of things in the game where the officials maybe lost control of it, and it should never really come to that. Like, bench clearances seems to be a thing of the past. You know what I mean? If fair enough, one guy goes after one guy, fair game. But when like a full bench of people are coming over onto the ice and it's all spilling over, safety goes out the window, the management of the game goes out the window. And I think that's where it's going to start getting looked at now. And I think that's why it's in the position it's in.
But we love it.
Like you say, as a fan, obviously you just want to see everybody going at it, but like you say, the league and player safety, they don't want to be seeing that, do they? Like you say, these guys are going to normal jobs during the week, and all it takes is one incident.
I'm really hoping for a miracle and that we can hopefully see him before Coventry. If not, fingers crossed if we can make it there, him be at Coventry, because we go back to his points and his influence that he's had on the team. Remember, he's the captain. He's stepped up since last season when we lost Towner, and he's been that, hasn't he? He's been front foot for every single one of his teammates. The amount of points he's put up, the influential performances. It'd be such a gutting feeling for the fans and obviously Bobby if he couldn't appear again this season. So cross those fingers.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one then.
Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. On to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And that concludes this week's Seahawks reaction. So now we're going to look at this weekend's fixtures, just gone. As we've obviously mentioned, bit of I don't like to say a wasted weekend, dead weekend, but pretty much everything was settled at this point. I think going into the games, we only had the last playoff spot to play for. That's
that's
right. It was either going to be Telford or Solway, which was quickly sort of resolved on Saturday, which meant Sunday meant nothing. But the weekend started on a Friday, if I'm correct in what I'm thinking, which was MK at home to Romford.
Does what it says on the tin, I think. As predicted, 7-1 to Milton Keynes Lightning. Obviously Milton Keynes are going to be a little bit gutted coming off the back of the season loss, but are going to be well up for playoffs.
Build momentum.
Getting a bit of momentum built there, as expected.
Yeah.
So then moving on to Saturday, on the 22nd of March, we had the Berkshire Bees against the Sheffield Steel Dogs, but Bees at home. So
a much needed win for the Steel Dogs here. I think I was the only one who backed Steel Dogs actually in this one, and to be fair, looking at the result, you can see how good Bees are at home. Again, getting another point from them. Like, I'm really excited to see what the Bees are going to do next season, if I'm honest. But
I think
that was one that Sheffield really needed, wasn't it? Because I can't remember the last time they won before that.
But also a big point for the Bees in the end.
100%.
It's only an overtime win, wasn't it? So it was close.
I think that point was enough to secure not being bottom from that point. So
that's good.
That was class. Obviously, from our perspective, the boys have done the job. And like you say, I think Sheffield needed to build a bit of momentum going into the playoff run.
Yeah, and then we had Swindon Wildcats against the Telford Tigers. Obviously, Telford had a lot more on the line here than what Swindon did, and they showed it, ultimately taking 2 points in a 5-4 overtime win for them. Yeah,
so as we stated, obviously Telford gunning for that last playoff spot, knowing if they got any sort of point, 2 points, that was it. It was secure, and against a very good Swindon team as well. So fair play to them.
There's a thing there in it where I actually think Telford now are probably going to be more motivated in the playoffs than anyone else, because they've had to fight for that last position. So
I'd love to see their form over the last month or two. Must be one of the best.
They've been very good. They've turned it on at the right time. Like I say, I think it will just help them going into that playoff run now.
We'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Then we had the Leeds Knights against Peterborough Phantoms. Peterborough Phantoms taking this 1-2-1 at the Castle as well.
Yeah, so I know it didn't mean much of anything, but we just didn't want to fall into Peterborough's obviously spot in 5th.
No.
So we wanted to keep that 4th spot after having it so long. So seeing Peterborough come out with that win was a bit of a, we need to sort of get ourselves going here, so we didn't fall into that slot.
Perhaps Leeds have been on the beers, and that's since obviously winning the league, and they've let it slip a little bit there.
We spoke about them earlier when they came to Hull, sort of like playing around with the lads and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it showed here, but you can't take that away from Peterborough, can you? It's a huge win for them, and again a massive momentum booster going into our group in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, then we had the Solway Sharks at the Milton Keynes Lightning. Milton Keynes took this one at Solway, which is probably one of the most challenging visits of this weekend. 5-1.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Going to the Shark Tank's never easy, and it is that sort of nice little challenge you want before the playoffs to see we're going to go somewhere a bit of a trek for us, bit of a journey, but easy win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately that secured them now spot that one, didn't it?
Yeah.
They needed to win this one to go into the match on the Sunday where it was both of them. But, credit to the Sharks, they fought till the end, didn't they? I know Nolan Gardner also hit 100 points this weekend, didn't he? So fair play to him. I think you put him it was Dunbar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a testament to both of their importance, isn't it?
Absolutely,
They're really well.
Yeah.
And then finally we had the Bristol Pitbulls on the Seahawks, which, do you know what, we've talked about the score, we've talked about the antics in that game. I reckon we'll just let Sleeping Dog lie on that one.
Yeah.
6-3 to Peterborough.
Yeah,
Sorry, to Bristol.
Fair play to Bristol on that one, that's all I'll say.
I bet there was a bit gutted, because like you say, with the Bees just getting that extra point, but them beating Seahawks, it could have gone down to the last day for them to scrape off the bottom of the table. But it's not really worked out for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the Sunday fixtures then. We had Sheffield Steel Dogs and Swindon Wildcats in Sheffield. Wildcats showing what they're about on this one, doubling their score, 8-4.
Yeah, so obviously they still meet each other in the playoff run, so it was a good, nice little test to see how it's going to play out. I thought it'd be a lot tighter personally, so I was a bit surprised. I always thought Swindon was going to take it though.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they got beat, didn't they, on Saturday? So Sunday was always going to be a question mark after seeing that result, but no, they've come out, done the business, seen Jake Bricknell's been on a bit of form again. He had a fight actually again this week, didn't
he? And he was pretty dominant in that fight as well, to be honest.
He's a hoss in there. He's a big lad.
Yeah, unit.
Love it.
An import having 2 fights. Wow. So then we move on to the Romford Raiders at the Bristol Pitbulls.
This is where the results get a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like you said, obviously Seahawks and Pitbulls and their antics from Saturday. I know Pitbulls was losing a lot of players. We had a look, didn't we? And they had 2 full lines, and their third line consisted of just Hamill. So they've lost a lot of players as well. They was down to 12 players, and I think it showed, in this 15-8 win for the Romford Raiders, which. Again, another team that are going to be in the playoff running. Yeah. Nice to build up a bit more momentum, some goals.
Do you know what though? To say they had 2 lines and 1 on third and they've scored 8 goals against Raiders, fair play to them.
They'll give it a crack, haven't they?
They've gone down kicking and screaming, haven't they, really?
Yeah, all guns blazing, haven't they? But yeah, 15-8, massive scoreline for Romford. They'll be buzzing with that one, won't they? I think I've seen some bits online saying, I'm asking the question of what's the highest scoring goal in NIHL history, to see if they could beat it. But then we moved on to Peterborough Phantoms at Berkshire Bees, 12-7 to Peterborough.
The two bottom teams have had a bit of a good hard in, haven't they?
Again though, 7 goals for the Bees, and this is probably a result that as the Slapshot Syndicate didn't want it, with all due respect to Peterborough, because there's no lie that we have a fondness for the Bees, but we really didn't want Peterborough scoring 12.
Do you know what?
You say that though, but also offensively, you score 12, but you concede 7.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But then we don't know. I know that Peterborough didn't have Levine in goal for that. You put the import net in for the score 7.
That's the choice you make on the night. They're the sort of little decisions where you make them, they can go against you.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like they may have rested in ahead of next week, and if the forwards are flying in that game, it's a bit of a scary
I think that's out of the 2 big scoring results there. I know I might just say I'm a bit of a Bees fan, but I think that's a better result for Bees. That against Peterborough, you look at the 2 teams that have done the big scoring, Romford and Peterborough.
Actually, I agree. Raiders have shipped some goals this year, haven't they? Yeah, they've been hammered at times. And
Bees to score 7.
Against Peterborough.
I might be wrong, but have the Bees even put 7 by anybody at all this season? I can't seem to remember. So it's fair crack to them. Sorry if they have, but 7 for the Bees is class.
Peterborough are a solid unit as well, aren't they? There's no, you've got to give them credit there, putting 7 past Peterborough.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we'll move on then. So we had the Hull Seahawks and the Leeds Knights. We've obviously talked about this one. Seahawks taking the win 4-3 in a shootout win. So quite a big result for us, and obviously a bit of momentum.
I've got a nice little addition to that, which is popped to my head, but that is a 1 point weekend for the Leeds Knights going into playoff.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
That's that, yeah.
You might say it's a nothingness, and obviously they celebrated the league win, but is that a good way to go into the playoffs?
Yeah,
1 point weekend.
Yeah,
I
true.
think that, with no disrespect to them, actually,
It's a double bluff.
I was gonna say Leeds are probably thankful that they are playing Telford first, but with Telford's form recently,
You can't write them
you
off.
don't know, can you? Yeah.
Okay, so the final fixture of the weekend then was Telford Tigers and Solway Sharks, which could have been a massive game had their results gone their way. And obviously the Saturday fixtures, ultimately Solway coming out with this one 6-3.
Yeah, it would have been nice if it had gone down to this game to decide the last playoff spot.
But again, I think it was done on the Saturday, wasn't it? So this was a nothing game for Telford.
Yeah, MK beat Solway, didn't they?
Yeah.
They couldn't mathematically do it.
Exactly. So Telford probably went into this thinking like, okay,
Telford
we need
may
to
have
rest.
rested some players, or
they knew they needed to get something on the weekend, and they obviously got it by going into the old town win with Swindon. So the new Sunday was a bit of a, we're back home, lads. Let's just take this one a bit easier.
Make sure there's no injuries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright then, shall we have a look at the final standings of the league then for
let's have a look.
season.
So the final standings of the regular season for the National Division 24-25.
So in first position we had the Leeds Knights. They ended the season on 84 points. Milton Keynes Lightning in second. They ended on 83 points, so very, very close.
Yeah.
Swindon Wildcats in third. They ended on 77 points. Hull Seahawks in fourth. They ended on 86 points. 66 points.
I wish.
I know. That's my eyesight. Yeah. Fifth position was Peterborough Phantoms. They're on 65 points. Sheffield Steel Dogs in sixth, 56 points. Romford Raiders in seventh, 51 points. Telford Tigers and the last qualifying team, 48 points. Solway Sharks on 44 points in that position. 10th position was the Berkshire Bees with 36 points, and Bristol Pitbulls in plumb last on 34 points.
Anything that surprises you in that from this season, fellas? Anybody? Any team that's gone a bit beyond what you expected this season? Somebody that's disappointed you, maybe?
Well, to be honest, at one point I really thought Swindon was on for competing for the title.
Yeah.
So the momentum they had at one point, I thought there was no stopping them. Obviously, they had a couple of games where they dropped a few points, but I think they'll be looking at next season and really
only 7 points off though.
Yeah, that's
so
what I mean.
it's not a massive gap, is it? Let's be honest.
Well, don't forget we was above them for a bit.
Yeah.
And we started the season pretty well. And the way Swindon obviously went into some of their games and they racked up a load of points within a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden they was right there.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that train stopping at one point, so sort of surprises me that they ended the season in third. I thought they might have continued to push on and certainly been in the first or second.
Anybody who's disappointed you?
Sheffield.
Yeah.
Only because of the quality they showed at certain points in the season as well.
I think that's a fair shout on that one.
Yeah, they obviously have got some quality players, and we've talked about the roster and people going off to Steelers and stuff. But ultimately, Steel Dogs are a team, so you need to focus on this as much as you do the Steelers. So.
Yours, Rossy?
One impressed one.
Yeah.
So, in terms of my team that have impressed me, I'd go similar to Brad. I'd go for Swindon. Just because we've got to remember, take us back a month, Swindon were only around 2 or 3 points off the top, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was ever changing. That three horse race. We liked to chime in and say the 4 horse and this, that, the other, but to be honest, it was always a case of Swindon were going to be the ones who ultimately were staying in that race. And again, we spoke to Tyler Plowes a couple of weeks ago, and he said that the project there is building. So in 2 seasons' time, you can see them being a really big, legitimate threat for the team, for the title. Sorry, and compared to last season, the defence has improved hugely. So if they can keep that ball rolling, they'll be a real asset to the league, I'd say. Quick mention as well for MK. I think they give Leeds the closest title race we've seen since we've been watching hockey, and usually by February time Leeds have they've smashed it, and it's easy. They're doing what they did this weekend for the rest of the season. They're just sort of playing about with it and stuff, but they did a real good job. I feel like I'm copying Brad, but I'm really disappointed with the Steel Dogs, to be honest. The thing for me is, at the start of the season when they announced the big partnership with the Steelers, I thought they're going to get some money invested, they're going to have some really good two-ways, and the fans will cross over and it'll make for a real good thing. But to be honest, I don't want to make any enemies and stuff with the Steelers, but to me, I've only seen benefit from the Steelers.
Yeah,
I feel like when Steelers, I feel like when they wanted Bjarke Nordstrom, they took Bjarke Nordstrom. I feel when they've had the run of Ulrich all season, they took Tremblay about a month before the end of the season. Probably one of the best, if not the best import they had. No disrespect to Sommer, because we're all massive fans of Sommer, but Tremblay was a great player for him, and they just ended being like, oh yeah, we're taking him now,
Which for the Steelers, yeah, that's great. For the players, yes, that's great because they're getting bled through. Yeah. But for Steel Dogs themselves and a Steel Dogs fan,
exactly,
you're like,
it's disappointing, isn't it? If you are a Steel Dogs fan, particularly the Steel Dogs at the national level, you like the national hockey. As a fan, if I was a fan of that team, I'd be gutted because.
But even as an outsider, I remember when the Steelers had taken Tremblay, it was like, oh yeah, Tremblay's now with the Steelers. And everybody was kind of like, what? And then there's like, oh, but you're getting back at Steel Dogs next season. It was kind of like a double announcement. Yeah. And I was just like, that's sort of rubbing salt in the wound to your own, feeder club, if you will.
Can you imagine if we was partnered with Manchester and they said, so last month of the season, we're taking Sobchak, but you can have him next year. You'd be like, what? No.
Do you know what? We'll have Johnny back for a little bit.
You can have him next season, though.
What benefit is that to me next season when we're on for the, And again, with, the signing of Kirky and people like that, I thought that there was building something genuinely to be excited about, and I don't think they'll live up to the hype, unfortunately. I think individually they've had some brilliant players this season, and again we mentioned Sommer and a few others, and I think Curtis Warburton's had a good season this season. He's not done anything to sort of discredit his name. I know when he came the other week to us, we was really impressed with him, weren't we? But ultimately, as a collective, I've been quite disappointed with the Steel Dogs.
Yeah. What about you, Az?
I won't waffle on as much as him.
Sorry.
I'm going to shock you with this one. So one of my biggest disappointments is actually the Hull Seahawks. And the reason I say that is Matty's mission statement, as it's been for the past few years, is we aren't just here to take part.
We're not here to take part, we're here to take over. That Conor McGregor quote.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And I remember at the beginning of the season when all the teams started forming, a lot of people started throwing predictions out, and I remember Hull was champions or
first or second.
And do you know what? We went like this, and all of a sudden it just went bush, and we couldn't win away if we wanted to. And we had that horrible sort of run of form.
And absolutely killed us there.
And I know Matty's alluded to it a few times, and there was just something going on in the team. Off ice, there's just seemed to be something wrong.
And then something happened on ice that seems to reignite it.
But it's just, I'm quite disappointed by it, if I'm honest.
I agree, yes.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think when we signed Phillips at the start of the season, that was almost.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, this is going to be amazing.
When he came in, and like you say, some of the other players we signed was just like, here we go. Even the Hewitt coming in, proven winner, won many a thing in Hull.
Bit of controversy around it, but you think
he was getting
building something here.
You thought we've got experienced players, brilliant. They're coming in, and I honestly thought we've got a team this season.
But then again, we look at that and we know what sort of product they was putting together, and for a long time we have to remember that Deck Barmer was part of that product, and then it relatively.
I don't like the idea of just building around one man.
But he is a massive defence.
What about the first 2 months of the season when we was challenging and we didn't have Deck Barmer there?
Yeah, great. Yeah, fair play with that comment. Yeah,
absolutely. But then we also started off with Phillips, and then he got banned straight
away. I appreciate that.
Definitely.
But,
there was a void there to be filled.
In pre-season, we beat Leeds and Sheffield in the Yorkshire Cup. We looked class, and again we had Phillips and stuff like that. But I think as a team without Barb, like obviously we're a better team with Barb, and there's no question about it, is there? But we can't just put it down to single players, and obviously getting Hodge back was really good, and I don't know whether there was like a lot.
Sobchak. We
had Sobchak also.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But single-handedly, he's absolutely dragged us forward in some games.
We've had a front line that's produced over 330 points this season, and we're 18 points off the top of the table.
But
that's not on. You can't have that. I'm sorry.
But this comes back to my previous point. The reason, one of the reasons for that is we're one of the highest scoring teams of the season, but we conceded quite a lot. So actually, looking at that back line, not just the defensive line, also the net is.
But you say we're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but we're not. We're just amongst everybody else.
We are one of the highest,
but we're not there. Look at it. Goals for 243. Yeah. Swindon outscored us. Milton Keynes outscored us. Leeds outscored us. Peterborough was only 20 goals behind us. Yeah, you're saying like we're the highest. We wasn't that massively high scoring.
We was one of the highest, evidently, because we was in the 4th position and we was only outscored by the 3 teams that are all above us. Where we've fallen short, again in my opinion, is conceding goals, and I think partly that's to do with the fact that we've interchanged netties quite a lot. And
completely agree.
And Matty's gone and given one netty one game, then another netty the other game, where we've clearly got one standout goalkeeper.
We'll leave it there because we're droning on a bit now. But my only other disappointment is Telford Tigers.
Huh?
If you remember back at the beginning of the season, they couldn't win a game if they wanted to. I don't remember that first couple of months.
Yeah.
They was absolutely shocking. And the 2 teams I've picked are probably the only teams that have had a real sudden blip. Telford's at the beginning, ours was sort of just before Christmas.
Yeah.
And this is down to what Leeds and Milton Keynes have now done to the league. You can't afford to. Simple as that. So they're sort of my disappointments. And I just agree with you both that I think Swindon have been very good this season.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there before we start getting too diplomatic on the subject. It's somebody's getting a bit personal. So. But that concludes looking at the fixtures and the final standings for this season. So now we're going to look at our final team of the week for the season. And like you say, we've just gone over some of the big scores and results for the weekend. So we had some high point scorers this weekend. Who wants to go first?
Yes, our first star of the week is a netminder, and it's Hayden Levine from the Peterborough Phantoms. He's had a fantastic weekend, 98% save percentage versus Leeds, which is outstanding when you look at that.
He only played in 1 game, didn't he? But ultimately, he was a massive. That's a massive contributing factor to Leeds, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be quite integral, isn't he, for the playoffs as well, showing what he can do. So, well done.
Yeah, I think he's proved he's a good goaltender, and even like you say, that'll do him the world of good. The team will be massively chuffed with that, and him himself, he'll be thinking going into that playoffs now, and nobody's getting by me.
Yeah,
well done.
You want me to go next?
Yeah.
Yeah, so next up we've got Bradley Bowering from the Peterborough Phantoms. Again, another Phantom. They've had a really good weekend, a 4-point weekend against Leeds and the Bees. Bowering was a big contributing factor to that with 3 assists, 1 against Leeds and 2 against the Bees. So well done, Bradley.
And our other defenceman is Jordan Spadafor of the Milton Keynes Lightning. I think we've mentioned him a few times, throughout the season, haven't we? Not necessarily somebody who's always got a lot of credit, but I think he has been good for it. He's had a really good.
He's an interesting one for them because he's one of their imports, isn't he? But I know at times he's been in and out of the team, courtesy of like Tim Wallace. I know Tim Wallace has doubled in, and Spadafor had to sort of take a step out. But for him to do as well as he did, they had a tough weekend. They only conceded 2 goals. So a fantastic weekend for him, and an assist to top it off, which is really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then we've got into our forwards we've got Reid Morrison from the Romford Raiders. He's had a fantastic weekend as well. 5+2 versus Bristol on Sunday, I think it was. Fantastic result. I know obviously we've talked about Bristol being short benched and stuff after what happened on the Saturday night, but it's still fantastic to put 7 points in the game.
Absolutely, it was a great result for for the Raiders there. Like I say, he was a name that popped out straight away. Great performance by him this week. Yeah,
I agree. So our second forward for the team of the week this week is Ross Venus from the MK Lightning. So again, similarly to Spanifor, another really good weekend for them. They only conceded 2 goals at one end, but he had a big hand in the other end. Other end of the ice, he had 7 points over the weekend against Romford and Solway, so a really influential player and a massive player for them going into the playoffs.
Yeah, again, like you say, I know these last week or so it's been a bit of a a dead week, but if any player can start getting a bit of confidence going into the playoffs, that's massive. And Ross there coming in with a big 7 points is clutch.
Yeah, agreed.
And the last one, Nathan Salem of the Peterborough Phantoms. We are a big fan of Nath, aren't we?
Yeah,
like you said, ex-Seahawks player. I know, unsung hero, I'd probably say.
Agreed.
I think he probably plays the same sort of role for Peterborough.
Yeah.
You can always count on him, can't you? He'll always chip in.
One of the most solid second line players in the league, isn't he?
Yeah, but it's very sad to see him go, won't we?
Hugely disappointed, won't we?
Yeah.
It was a disappointing time that in pre-season when it was announced that he was leaving, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Nathan, 5 points versus the Bees.
Yeah.
Good return.
Solid.
And he had a really good game against Leeds as well, so you can't knock that. Again, another player, like say, unsung hero for his line. He's going to look real good going into the playoffs.
Definitely.
That concludes the team of the week for this week. Congratulations to everybody who got in. So now we're going to get into this week's big talking point. Before we get into it there, lads, I think we should give a few people from last week's big talking point a bit of a shout out. We asked and we had some delivery.
Oh, I think first of all, as you came up with the idea, so big credit to you. We all really enjoyed it, didn't we? We all went and did our own work, it was amazing. But a massive thanks to everybody, because there was so many people that got involved, and it was brilliant, that engagement with everybody, and the messages in between. And I think it was great just to talk about ice hockey with ice hockey fans, wasn't it? And obviously us three are some of the biggest ice hockey fans around that engagement with everyone was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, interesting to see some people's opinions on it as well, of who they pick for their team of the season. So just shows, in it, getting people involved and getting them alternate opinions in there is just good for the sport, really. So, and good for podcasting and opinion based stuff. So buzzing with it.
Yeah, so I was just going to touch on what you just said there. So for those that didn't see our episode last week, we did a bit of a piece on team of the regular season, didn't we?
Yeah.
Picked our starting lineups for who we think had been the sort of standout players of the season. So we'll have a look. So our first comeback was Floss from What the Puck, and they've gone for Renimar in goal, Mog and Karainen in defence, Braden, Bonner and Walker Sommer. So that was quite a nice little team there.
Well, you was thinking Bonner as well, weren't you?
Yeah,
so,
I've said he should be probably one of the players of the season for Seahawks this year, so really rated that. Another one was Anthony Russell from Banners on the Wall. Went for Gozzi in goal, Norton and Martelli in defence, Billin, Sobchak and Walker Sommer. So again, Sommer featuring there. He's had a great season, hasn't he? Who else have we got? Bennett Sutpuck has gone for, is that Jordan Marr in there? Norton and Pascal in defence, Walazinski, Sobchak and Braden. So a bit of a difference in that one, which was quite nice. Jack, Charlie and Dan from Macca's Talk Hockey, and they went for Gozzi in goal, Wells and Stenton in defence, Miller, Ferrara and Bobby Chamberlain. It was nice to see our Seahawks in there again. Simon Fellows, a fellow Seahawk fan, went for Max Wright in goal, which I know was a big debate for us, wasn't it, really, because Max Wright has been class. Ed Bradley and Martelli in defence, Kieran Brown, Sobchak and Ferrara. That's a pretty stacked lineup, that one's a bit of a jerk. Ryan Mallinson, also another Seahawks fan, went for Gozzi in goal, Kel Beattie and Martelli in defence, Cameron Herr, Sobchak and Harewood as a forward there. So that's quite a good one, Martelli featured in a few people's teams, didn't he? So
good choice, that guy as well.
Good choice. Thank you all for getting involved and sending those over. It's been a bit of a joy, that one, ain't it, really? Good talking piece.
Yeah, it was really good.
So with that said, we'll crack on to this week's big talking point. So this week we're going to sort of follow on with our little arts and crafts session and we're going to talk about the playoffs. So obviously You know, this coming weekend will be the start of the playoffs. So, like I just said, we've done a bit of arts and crafts. We've sort of planned out and predicted who we think is going to finish in what position and how that's going to play out right through to the end of the playoffs.
Yeah, again, I think we've all got pretty different views on this, haven't we? Probably some the same, but in terms of how it's done, and the points and stuff around it,
yeah, I think
going to be interesting.
Because we've sort of opened it up and I've gone a bit mad with this, and instead of just saying who's going to finish in what position, we've kind of looked at who's going to win so many games and what the points are going to look
Wins,
like.
losses, overtime, points, and the lot.
Disclaimer right here first before we go through this. We're from Hull and mathematics isn't our greatest sort of subject, so if the maths don't work out, it's been a long day. So we've split this into two sort of groups. So Group A, we've put the Leeds Knights in there with Peterborough Phantoms, Hull Seahawks and Telford Tigers. Yep. And Group B is Milton Keynes Lightning, Swindon Wildcats, Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Romford Raiders. Mm-hmm. So lads, predictions, which group should we start with?
Ooh, let's go for Group A.
Start with Group A.
Yeah, that's first in the alphabet. So.
Alright then. So, looking at Group A, which again is Leeds Knights, Peterborough Phantoms, Hull Seahawks and Telford Tigers. I think we're all going to be pretty unanimous on this. So, for me, I've gone Leeds Knights to top this group. I've gone for 4 wins here and 2 losses. So, my thinking on this is that Leeds will win all their home games and then beat Telford away as well. So that's their 4 wins for me.
Mm.
What you lads thinking?
Yeah, so I've gone for Leeds Knights as well in first position, with a total of 10 points, 5 wins and 1 loss.
So who's their loss?
The 1 loss being at Hull Seahawks home games.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think if anyone's had Leeds' number this season, it's been us at home. So I don't think we'll go away and beat them. So
no, I similarly agree. My 2 losses for Leeds Knights were Peterborough and Hull away. I just think both those teams, it might come down to something big for one of those to qualify. So.
Well, it's very interesting you say that, Az, because I did a little table here because unless I was visualising it, I couldn't do all the maths and things like that. I went for Leeds to win 4 and lose 2, and I also had Leeds picking up 4 points against Telford, 2 against Hull and 2 against Peterborough. I think that Peterborough can get 2 points off Leeds either way, Castle or at home. It's a bit of an unpredictable one with them. Yeah. I feel in Hull, I think Hull could get 2 points off Leeds, so that's why I went for the same as you. So we're unanimous in that one.
Yeah. My second place, and I know this is going to be a big hit, this one, I'm going against my own club, and I've gone for Peterborough Phantoms to qualify and pick up 4 wins and 2 losses here. So they would be joint on 8 points with Leeds, which means it would come down to goal difference or a head-to-head there, which would decide who would actually top the group.
Whoever gets the most head-to-heads in it.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting though, that one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leeds obviously play Peterborough last as well in their fixtures, so that it could literally come down to the wire there.
Yeah.
Be good entertainment.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so I've gone in second position, Hull Seahawks. I've got 4 wins, 1 overtime point and a loss, for a total of 9 points, so just below Leeds there, obviously picking up the 1 point with the overtime win, but I think we get a point against Peterborough away, and we do them in at home ice. So I think we'll do Telford both games, or hope that we do anyway. And like I said, I think we'll get beat by Leeds at their place, and we'll beat them at home. So.
Interesting, Rossy.
Similarly to Brad, I've also gone for Hull Seahawks in second place. However, I'll move on to my third as well, because I've got Hull and Peterborough both picking up 6 points.
Okay.
So I've got Hull to pick up 2 points against Leeds, Telford and Peterborough. So that's me saying that they're going to win 1 and lose 1 in each of the double headers.
Okay.
I think Telford will pick up 2 points against us. I also think Telford could pick up 2 points against Peterborough. They can make things really hard at their home ice. I've gone Hull in second place, just because I feel that
Scoring power and that.
similar to Brad, in terms of head-to-heads and stuff and goal difference, if it ends up going to that because of the nature of the playoffs and only playing each other quite a short amount of times, that hopefully it could see us through, although this past weekend has proved otherwise, with Peterborough scoring a boatload of goals. So I've gone with my heart a little bit with this one and said Hull, but I could very well see Peterborough taking that second spot. They are an absolute machine, and let's not forget last year's winners. So it could either go either way.
Experience.
Yeah, exactly. They've been there and they've done it. They've got the t-shirt, haven't they?
Yeah.
So that's my second and third now, because I've sort of revealed that. So I'll swing it back to you guys.
Yeah. So obviously I dropped Peterborough into second, and for me that means Hull Seahawks will miss out and will be third.
Yeah.
For me, I've gone for 3 wins, 3 losses here for Hull Seahawks, which pretty much just basically says they're going to defend the home ice in the entirety of it, but then lose on the road.
That's quite similar to me again, isn't it?
So I know we've all sort of come together in some sort of way, and we've picked on the similar things, which will probably be the ups and downs of each team, but Hull Seahawks to miss out for me.
Yeah, well, in my third position, I've got Peterborough Phantoms. I've got that as 5 points, winning 2, 1 draw, and losing 3. So my thought process with Peterborough is obviously I think they'd have got the 1 point from the overtime.
Yeah.
When we go there, but also I think Leeds do the double on them. They do the double on Telford, and we're gonna potentially be their kryptonite.
Interesting.
That obviously puts Telford in last position for all of us.
all 3 of us.
I've actually gone with that. I don't think Telford will score any points though.
Really?
Oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
really surprised at
That's
that,
interesting.
to be
So
honest.
before you explain that then, what have you gone for Telford?
I've gone for Telford to win 2 games, one
Okay.
against Peterborough and one against Hull,
Okay.
and I've got them to lose 4. So I've got them to lose one against each as well,
Yeah.
and Leeds to do the double on them.
Okay. I've gone for 1 Telford win,
Mm.
and that is against Hull.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting. I do want to hear why you've gone for 0 here. You are a Telford fan.
Yeah, I
They're
do.
coming in with a fair bit of form.
Their imports are on fire.
They are very good. I just think obviously I was gonna go 2 ways with this. I have a thought if there was gonna do something in playoffs, they was gonna get through to Coventry, or they weren't gonna do anything. So I've gone with a thought process of like Leeds, Hull, and Peterborough, but all massive teams at the top of the table, but all put in some big results and have all got a lot to play for.
Yeah.
And I just think that might be a little bit too much for Telford, depending on what happens in the first couple of games.
Yeah.
And Leeds have obviously got Telford first as well. By the time that those first few fixtures are over, they might be dead and buried, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. We'd had done some sort of stats and looked at here for me. When you looked at sort of Telford, their top goal scorer only had 29 goals. Although impressive, it just seems to be a bit of a way off on the other teams. I just think that kind of lacks the real firepower they need. Again, with assists, 55, you can't knock it with Eric Henderson, but it just seems to be a bit behind the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
I hate to be disrespectful, but when you look at the 4 teams, they just seem to be that sort of gap.
Yeah.
When it comes to this playoff hockey and meaning more and playing harder, I think, again, not to be disrespectful, they're needing luck and a bit of a miracle, unfortunately. They are a very good side, Telford, but I think, for me personally, I think they've just maybe gone a bit backwards this season.
I actually went for 2 wins for Telford. My thought process in this was regarding their form coming into in the last month, like I touched on earlier. I think they've been a real good form team.
Yeah.
I could see Hull and Peterborough going there and then making it difficult in their home ice, similar to the Bees. I feel like they like playing in their home ice. I think with Leeds having them first, they've sort of got the short straw there. I think Leeds will be really, really up for it.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's facing Leeds in that first round have got a really tough job, and I can see Leeds comfortably winning both games. I think in the second week, with that double header loss, maybe they'll have something more to fight for, and perhaps going into the Peterborough games, they may take 2 points. I don't think that they'll get whitewashed by everybody. I do think there'll be points somewhere. I'm just not sure where. Perhaps 4 points for them was a little ambitious, but we've got to remember that they can take points off teams. But I would like to agree with your point, what you were saying with the 3 above, because Leeds, Hull and Peterborough have all had really good victories against one another as well. But Telford not so much with where they were in the table, so I agree with you lads.
So looking at the group standings of each of us, just to go back over it, so for myself it's Leeds Knights to top the group, Peterborough Phantoms to come in second, Hull Seahawks third, Telford fourth.
And I've got Leeds in first position, Hull Seahawks second position, Peterborough Phantoms in third, and Telford Tigers in fourth.
And I'm similar to Brad. I've got Leeds first position, second position Hull, third position Peterborough, and fourth Telford.
So the closing comments for Group A from myself is the big obviously talking point is after Hull's big ding dong with Bristol, who will make it, who won't, who's going to be obviously suspended, and that's part of my reasoning for why I saw Hull not making it. Any other comments from you guys for?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, to be honest with you. Obviously there's a question mark above that at the moment, so these next couple of days are probably going to throw some of this out the window for us. But I just think, with what we showed on Sunday night, and them players being out as it was, we've showed that we can still get the job done. Whether these different version of these teams turn up on the night is another story, but like to think we've still got enough firepower there to get over the line.
I hate to be disrespectful to the Hull Seahawks players. I'm a massive fan, but I don't think there's a player in the team who can replace Bobby Chamberlain. I think Sobchak, Svek and Chamberlain is arguably the best line in the league, and when you take Bobby Chamberlain out of that, obviously we've got Johnny, we've got Huey, Brutz played on the first line on the Bones, and again all 4 of those guys, as well as we've got a great bunch of players, but I don't think you get the same effect from anybody in a Hull Seahawks jersey that you do from Bobby Chamberlain, which does create question marks, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Peterborough Phantoms have their Luke Ferrara, but we might not have our Bobby Chamberlain.
Yeah. So with that said, we'll look at Group B.
Yeah.
So Group B consisting of Milton Keynes Lightning, Swindon Wildcats, Sheffield Steel Dogs, and the Romford Raiders. So I'll go first. For me, to top this group will be Milton Keynes Lightning. I see 5 wins and 1 loss here. My only loss for them is Swindon away at the Link.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I don't think there has, but I've gone first position Swindon Wildcats on 9 points.
Okay.
I think they'll win 4, draw 1 and 1 loss.
Okay.
That's like an overtime win, yeah.
So I've gone for an overtime loss against Romford.
Oh, okay.
At Romford as well, but then I think Swindon will beat Romford at home,
right,
and then they'll win the rest of the games, including the games against Milton Keynes.
Fair.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That is a big shout, that one.
I feel like everyone who's watching is going to probably think me and you joined up before this. Just for the record, as I came to this, is like you had sort of something for us, and we did this. We aren't comparing, but I've also got MK to win 5, lose 1, and their only loss being away against Swindon. I think Swindon at home at the Link are probably one of the best in the league at defending their home ice. They very, very rarely lose there.
Yeah.
I think they'll be bang up for it when MK go there, and that will seep into my second place spot as well. But yeah, I agree. I think MK at home are amazing, and I think they showed this weekend when they went to Solway and comfortably won 5-1. That they can do it away as well, can't they, on the longest journey in the national division. So that's why I've gone for them to be top of 10 points.
So my second place in this group, and the other team to make it to the Final 4 weekend, is Swindon Wildcats. I've gone for 4 wins, 2 losses here. I think they're pretty good against Romford. I think they'll take both there, and they'll get a win at Sheffield MK, which will be probably just the home games there. So,
you think this is I know that's slightly off topic a little bit, but do you think this is the easier group out of the 2 you'd like to play in?
Potentially, yeah. I think MK and Swindon will fancy it against Romford's a difficult one, because as we go back, there was in the cup final and there was there for a reason. So obviously in the big games when it matters, they can be there. I think we'll just obviously disregard them because the other three teams have got something, you know.
Can I just say, as a Hull Seahawks fan, probably not. Against Sheffield, they always fancy it against us.
Well, we said this when we was talking about this, didn't we?
Yuck, no, I don't want to be part of that. And Romford are an absolute, they're an absolute bogey team of not bogey team of us, but bogey team of anybody. Like one week they'll ship 10 goals, and the next week they'll score 15. So you never you don't want that, do you?
Like a bag of Rebels, you don't know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
It's the coffee one, horrible.
Or a raisin.
So second position for me, I've gone Milton Keynes Lightning, which I don't think would have been a surprise to you. I've gone for 3 wins, 3 losses. So
that is interesting.
That is interesting. Are you thinking about last year's sort of running the playoffs?
Yeah, a little bit there,
a good shot, that, bro.
I know they're going to be motivated to come into the playoffs and they want to get to Coventry.
Yeah.
At least I think they'll do that. I just think they might have run out of a bit of steam, but obviously at this point. So I've gone that they'll get the points over the Raiders. They won't get any points against Swindon, and they'll have an away loss to Sheffield and a home win to Sheffield.
It's interesting.
That's an interesting
I like that. Rossley?
I have gone for Swindon to be in second place. I've also got them on 10 points. I've got 5 wins for them and 1 loss. I think they're going to do exactly the same as MK, but I think they'll lose at MK. I think they'll do the double over Sheffield comfortably, and I think they'll also do the double over Romford as well. For me, I'm not being disrespectful. I don't know whether going to Sheffield's going to be an issue for Swindon or MK. That'll also tie into my others, but I think they've got enough defensively. If Rennie Bar's on it, they're going to be really hard to beat. If Britnell's firing and all the rest of them, they've got an amazing team, and I think it could come down to the head-to-head for MK and Swindon, and I think MK will beat Swindon at home by more than Swindon will beat MK at home, which is why I've got MK on the top and Swindon second.
Yeah, you're just expecting them to protect their own ice.
Yeah, but I think with Raiders and Sheffield, they'll really fancy it, and I think they'll both of them will win.
The chance to rack up points and
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
So my third place in this group is Sheffield Steel Dogs. I've gone for 2 wins here and 4 losses. I think this is where we might swap up a bit between us and who's doing what.
Yeah.
So obviously with me saying that means that Romford will finish last in my group, and I just think this is down to personnel and that bit of firepower. I think Sheffield have just got that bit more than Romford, but probably not enough to push them into them top 2 spaces. Walker Sommer up there, I think he's the second top goal scorer in the league. I think Jake Bricknell just took it off him in the last sort of week. So if Walker Sommer's on it, I think they'll get the wins probably against Romford, but I just don't know if that'll be enough against the other two.
Yeah, so I've gone opposite to you there, as I've gone Romford in third position and Sheffield in fourth. I think Romford will finish on 5 points. They'll get 2 wins, an overtime point and 3 losses. My thought process on that is, like you mentioned before, the cup mentality they had getting to the final. They're going to see a real opportunity here, and I think it's easier to write them off than it is to realise what they can do. So in terms of results for them, I've obviously got MK doing the double over them. Sheffield, I think they'll win both games. Swindon, they'll get 1 point in across both of the games, and then Sheffield Steel Dogs with 1 win, 5 losses for 2 points. I think Sheffield's win will obviously come over MK at their home, and obviously lose the rest of the games.
Okay, it's interesting.
It is indeed, definitely. My third and fourth are really boring. I've got them both to lose 5 games, and I've got them both to win 1 game. So I've got MK and Swindon on 10 points and Romford and Sheffield on 2 points.
Okay.
I think Romford will beat Sheffield in Romford, and I think Sheffield will beat Romford in Sheffield. I think that's just going to be a battle of Walker Sommer versus Sean Miller, to be honest.
Okay.
I could see them both defending home ice, but ultimately, I don't think Sheffield have got enough to go to MK or Swindon and get anything, and I think it's going to be too difficult for them to defend home ice. And Romford although, like you say, they can go on and have a really good victory, they can also ship a lot of goals.
Yeah.
I just think that they've got a little bit more in terms of like Sean Miller and Schufelt, people like that, to sort of spare them on than, you know, Sheffield do with Sommer and Bjarke and Nordstrom, and that's not a touch on them because they've probably been the standout players for them this season, but beyond that, you know, they can struggle for points and goals at times, so that's why I've gone for both of those, just to get 2 points off each other.
Magic. So that finishes our Group B predictions. For me, just to recap, MK to top the group, Swindon second, Sheffield third, Romford fourth.
Yeah, some interesting predictions there. Obviously, we know playoff hockey is a different kettle of fish, so it's going to be very interesting coming into these next couple of weeks. Moving on there, more importantly, you put some predictions for Coventry weekend.
Yeah, so obviously after we've just put our sort of groups together, for me it would mean that the first game would be Leeds versus Swindon, and then MK versus Phantoms. And for me that would then move on to our final of Leeds versus the Phantoms, and I'm going for a Leeds to win the full thing.
So you think they'll do the treble?
Yeah.
So do you think, who did you have Phantoms beat? MK?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's
Yeah.
a really interesting one. That.
I'm thinking again to last year, where the Phantoms came
100%.
through. Phantoms had a good season, and I just
Yeah.
think when it matters, I think, you know,
Yeah.
Phantoms to
I
get to
like
the
it.
final, and I think it'd be Leeds final, Leeds to win it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What have you got now?
So my semi-final would mean that it's Leeds versus MK and Swindon versus Hull. Out of that, in the final, I've got Leeds versus Swindon and Swindon coming out on top.
That is a real outside of that. I love that.
I did too.
The semi-final is filth.
I think if you back
Leeds and MK
Yeah.
semi.
Oof, not in it. I think you've got to back Swindon against the big teams though.
Yeah, that's partially my point, but also seeing what they was like at Coventry last year, and obviously they didn't make it, but they're going to be wanting to right a wrong there, and I genuinely think they'll be wanting to stop Leeds winning the treble as well, so they're going to have a little bit of extra motivation. I don't know. I just see it. We've talked about their firepower all season really since we've been doing this, and you know you mentioned the likes of Jake Bricknell, and he seems to, in these pressure moments, deliver. You mentioned obviously he's just taken the points for
Top goal
scorer off
Yeah.
Walker Sommer in like the last couple of games of the season when it matters most, and backing him.
Fair play.
Cool.
I don't discredit that at all. My tables would mean that Leeds would finish first and Hull would finish behind them, and then MK and Swindon. So my semi-finals would mean it'd be MK versus Hull and Leeds versus Swindon. I've gone for the obvious choices here. I've got MK to beat us in the semi-final, and I've also got Leeds to beat Swindon. So that'd set up for an MK versus Leeds Coventry final, which if you did it in person, that would be a naughty final. wouldn't it?
Well,
That'd be tasty.
It would be a great final, and anything could happen in that final. But my only thing that's going to happen is Leeds Knights to do the treble. So I've got them to win. I just think that from the start of the season, they've been unreal, haven't they? And all the way through the season, they've been worthy champions. And MK have also. Let's not forget that they led the table for a very long time. But I think ultimately Leeds have already shown why they're the title winners and why they're the cup winners. And how amazing would it be if they did the treble?
Yeah. So obviously reflecting on what the three of us have just said, me and you, Rossy, have got Leeds to win it.
We do, yeah.
And get the treble, which would be absolutely massive for them.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Bradders, you've gone for Swindon as an outsider.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I know as a little extra, we was looking at potential top goal scorer of the playoffs and our standout MVP of the sort of playoffs. So for me here, my top goal scorer of the playoffs is going to be Jake Bricknell.
Nice.
As we've just said, top goal scorer in the regular season. Just seems to have found in that bit of goal scoring form again. And I think he'll bag up a bit, yeah. I think he will be the top goal scorer.
I like it.
And my MVP is going to be Sam Gospel.
Like it.
I think he's going to be an absolute monster during this playoff run. And part of the reason why I think Leeds will win this, I think even if Leeds aren't fully at it in some of these games, I think
He's the kind of player who carries you through it.
him alone will just be a stone wall, and then Leeds will just get one chance at other end and potentially win a game.
Wow.
I honestly do.
That's what
So
you need.
that's my two.
Yeah, well, I've similar to you, think Bricknell
Yeah.
will be top goal scorer. I also think he'll be the MVP.
Oh really?
Yeah, I do.
Is that just because you think Swindon are going to win it?
Well,
sort of. I just.
if you're going to win it, you've got the top goal scorer.
Yeah,
You've
well-
got a hell of a shoe in, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly, and also for what he's done to get him there, I can sort of see it happening as well. So I think he's going to be the standout player of the season.
Yeah.
I've gone for a bit of a wild one with top goal scorer. Based on the tables, I've got an MK player to be the top goal scorer.
Okay.
Just because I feel like they're going to have more comfortable games against Romford and Sheffield than Leeds are against Peterborough and Telford.
Okay.
I've gone for Jordan Cowney to be the top goal scorer.
Okay.
You know, he was the top point scorer throughout the season, and he's massive for them. They've also got players like Sean Norris and people like that, you know, who score a lot of goals. But I think Cowney could be one of the top players for MK. But on the flip side, in my hypothetical final, I've got Noah McMullen to be the MVP. He is a ridiculously underrated player. He links defence to attack. He's always on the points. He's an amazing defender. Defenseman, sorry, and I think that in a playoff sort of environment, similar to you as, you need defensive reinforcements that have got the experience, that can show up and do it. And I think with his background and where he's come from as a non-British trained player, he'll be bang up for it. And I think that ultimately with his defensive capabilities and the ability to contribute as well, I think that he'll be the MVP.
Magic. So that sort of wraps up our look at the playoff predictions. Also, we've maybe gone a bit over the top instead of just going so. But I think it's been another good bit of enjoyable bit of something for us to have a look through on it really and put something together. Like, honestly, it could go anywhere at this point. Who's to say? Obviously, we're going into the first weekend now of fixtures, and a lot can be told from this first weekend. In my opinion, we've spoken off camera about how we think it'll go. It's a really interesting one. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we'll post our predictions as well on our Instagram page, so you can see that. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this as well. So by all means, send us your predictions. Let us know what you think's going to happen. And on to playoffs.
Absolutely, I second what you guys said. I'd love to get the engagement going and everybody involved again. It was amazing last week, so more of that, please.
And that concludes this week's Big Talking Point. So to finish off this week's episode, we're just going to run through the fixtures once over, so you guys who are not quite in the loop can know exactly who's got who for the first round of the playoffs. So starting on Saturday, Hull Seahawks at home to Peterborough Phantoms, an unusual one for another Saturday home game to kick us off.
Yeah.
As we've said, we've already just given our predictions, so we won't loiter on this too much, but it'll be a good starting point for Hull Seahawks. Big weekend in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of start as you mean to go on, I think, with these. Interesting to see how that one plays out.
Big double header.
Yeah, definitely. And then Swindon have got double header against Sheffield Steel Dogs.
Yeah.
It's at Swindon on the Saturday, so again it's going to be interesting for them. I think we all predicted, or most of us predicted, Swindon obviously taking the points here. So
yeah,
we'll see. Telford Tigers have got their double header against Leeds Knights.
They're at home first on the Saturday. Telford, so
could be interesting.
It'd be a really
Home crowds
interesting
are gonna
one
be
if
massive.
Telford could pull one off Leeds.
I think we've all sort of predicted Leeds would just walk this. So if Telford get anything out of this, I think all of a sudden our group just.
Can you imagine if
hang on a minute.
Let's just speak. Could you imagine? I'm getting speechless just thinking about it. Imagine if Telford took 2 points off Leeds and Leeds were 0 after the first round.
It's not even this. Like
Scary.
last season, I did exactly the same as this, and I said if anybody takes anything from Leeds, I don't think Hull make it, and it's exactly the same again.
Interesting.
I think if Telford gets something there, all of a sudden I think Hull and Peterborough are just like, oh, we can't just defend our eyes. We need to go against Leeds to really secure us getting through, and it just makes it a bit more interesting.
All
for
Leeds
me.
fall out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Even better.
Leeds and MK drop off, and it's anyone's game.
Some weekend that'd be.
And then the final double header of the weekend is Milton Keynes Lightning against the Romford Raiders.
Milton Keynes at home on the Saturday as well.
Looking to start sharp.
Do you know, just as a side one, would you rather play home first on the Saturday or away?
Home.
Home, I would also play at home. If I was MK, I would love to play at home because of the amount of people they've got in there.
Yeah.
You know, home ice.
I think, your first playoff game, get your home fans behind you, get a bit of momentum.
Get the crowd rocking.
Yeah, I think get your momentum, get your win at home, take that into your away game the next day.
Yeah,
I think we're in complete agreement with that. And that concludes this week's episode, fellas.
Yeah,
It's been another good one, another good chat. I think it's going to get real interesting now in the next sort of 2-3 weeks as we head towards the COV final. Obviously, we've covered our bits and bobs here. It's going to be 3 weeks, and that's me done for the for this season. You know, with me, with me thinking that the Seahawks aren't going to get in. You two obviously going to the playoff weekend. I hope obviously to get through for your two's benefit.
Yeah, it's
going to be excited about that, Lee.
Going to be interesting. Good episode that I enjoyed doing that, and we've really enjoyed the crowd interaction as well. So please do, let us know your prediction. Like I say, we'll post these on our page so you can see what we've all got, and it'll just give you some information there as to what you want to predict.
Yeah, we've obviously still got a few nice little mysteries and treats in the bag before the season ends, haven't we? So
do, yeah.
It's not just going to fade out from us here. Obviously, before the end of the playoffs, we've got something potentially up our sleeve. Yeah, I think you've got one last thing you wanted to throw in as well, Rossy, didn't you?
I do actually, yeah. So our friends over at the Hull Jets have actually got a really good offer as well. So if you're looking for your ice hockey fix and you're in the Hull area or around the Hull area, and you're a Hull Seahawks season pass holder, you can actually get into the playoff game for them against the D-side Dragons, which actually last weekend I think it was a 9-8 overtime when it has.
Yeah,
so
for the D-side.
An amazing game. So it's looking to prove to be a really good double header. I think in their league it's a little different, so they have a double header, and they don't have like groups. I think it's just like they have their double header, so they need to win to get in, sort of thing. I might be wrong in that situation, so apologies if I am, but either way it's going to make for a really great game. And if you're a Seahawks ticket holder, you can get in for free.
I think that just makes for a great day of hockey, doesn't it? So
amazing.
That is the Saturday as well. It's a 12:30 face-off, if I'm correct.
It's Hull Ice Arena.
So Hull Ice Arena, 12:30 Saturday. If you're a season pass holder of the Seahawks, you get in for free.
Yeah.
So you get that game, a few hours, and bang, you're there still for the Seahawks game. So a great Saturday for ice hockey. Support 2 local clubs. Absolutely fantastic. So obviously we wish all the best as well to the Hull Jets. We hope those guys can get through that and obviously go all the way themselves.
Definitely.
Yeah, and just a quick mention to get involved with our competition. Obviously, we've got a shirt up for grabs of your choice. But all you need to do is go on, tag 3 people into the comments, share us on your story and tag us in, and make sure you follow us. Once we reach 500 followers, we'll do a little raffle and the winner will get the shirt of their choice.
For free, any team, any name, in the British ice hockey scene. What's better than that? Just for following the Slapshot Syndicate, lads.
Yeah, absolutely. That concludes the episode. Thanks for joining us as always. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.